We welcome you into tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth. My name is Bryce. This is Addie. Addie, anything you want to talk? We haven't let you talk a lot since the picks you've been making. Any thoughts? All right, we appreciate it. Slobber all over the mic. Anything? Okay. We'll see you at tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Bada bing, bada boom. Welcome in to a Monday night episode of The Crowded Booth. Will, as I wipe the slobber off of this microphone.
I don't think your mic is selected.
Oh. No, it's the camera's selected.
Doing, man. Check.
There you go.
Too.
There you go. That's
So
what
you
we
didn't
want
get
to
to
hear.
hear the ASMR of my daughter just.
Couldn't hear that either.
Well, that's probably a good thing. No one wants to hear that anyways. Will Manis, my name is Bryce Koon. College Football Week 8 reaction show. Some different segments that we're going to be talking about tonight. But Will, first off, you spent this past Saturday at a college football game. I don't know if you're going to plan on talking about them and kind of our team of the week that we're going to obviously talk about tonight. But just your thoughts, overall thoughts of what you saw inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I could have taken a nap. The most exciting part for me was seeing Brent Key just smash his headset into about 7 pieces in the first quarter. If you were checked in the Discord today, you saw me talk about that. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts. This isn't a Georgia Tech show tonight, but there's a lot going on. And Tech fans, I think your first priority should be show up for your team. That should be first priority. Worry about the coach after you start showing up, because that, if you're playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I don't care if it's a normal thing, you got a contract, whatever. You need to show up and pack it out and make it a home field. It shouldn't matter. You should be. I don't think there is a boycott necessarily, but you definitely shouldn't be, because I know there's been a lot of complaints the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's that is true. That is true. Maxwell says the last few days have been the most active the GT channel has been in the Discord for quite a while. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of news. Doesn't it feel like so long ago that we talked with Palmer Toms about the movement of the Georgia Tech game to Mercedes-Benz Stadium? And did you pick up who I listed first in that rivalry, by the way?
I did.
Yeah, clean old-fashioned hate. It is what it is. All right, we're talking some college football games. We're going to talk a bunch of different things. But, Will, I don't know if you do you have – well, let's talk games first, and then we'll go into teams of the week, and then we'll go into our takeaways. And, obviously, then we'll take a look at the best bets, which you didn't lose this week, pal.
I mean, it would have been a win if we went by what the line closed at, but we don't. We go at what it is on Wednesday night when we take it. So that's unfortunate. Not the first time I've been hurt by that, but that's okay.
It's not the first time you've been hurt this season, too. You're almost kind of numb to it at this point, so I think it works out for you fairly well. All right, let's talk college football here on a Monday night. Make sure you hit that sub button. Make sure you like the video. A lot of people watching, and that is numbers on X. We appreciate you over there as well. Share with your friends. All right, Will, we're going to start with this one. I don't know how much of this game you got to watch. I know that obviously you were at the Georgia Tech Notre Dame game inside Mercedes-Benz. I imagine with the company that you kept in the stands there that you guys wanted to watch this football game as well as your new fiance. Let's start. Georgia tames Texas in an SEC battle. We're going to talk about both sides of the coin here, Will, but I think we're going to start with the winners. I want to start with Georgia's defense. Suffocating. They once had this guy named Dan Lanning, who's got the number 1 team in the country per a lot of people. Now they've got this guy named Glenn Schumann, who made the jump from linebackers coach to DC when Dan Lanning was there.
Wait a minute now.
I'm sorry.
That you didn't see the stories that have come out. Now, don't know how much truth there is to this.
Okay.
So Glenn Schumann, his wife, he and his wife had a child on Wednesday, so he was quite distracted this week. The word on the street is that guy stashed at defensive analyst kind of stood in as defensive coordinator this week at practice and implemented the game plan. That would be my doppelganger, Will Muschamp.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And some Georgia friends of mine say, you know what, that checks out big time because that defense was motivated. They were inspired. That's the best the defense has played all season. That's the best I've seen the Georgia defense play
since the national championship.
I haven't watched. Yeah. I haven't watched, every snap of a Georgia game like this one in a couple of years. So it's the best that I've seen Georgia play on defense in 2-3 years. They were incredible. If you want to believe that story that Will Muschamp was standing in as defensive coordinator, that's great. But there was something different, and a lot of Georgia friends, they've been telling me Will Muschamp going off the field this year has hurt them on defense.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would completely echo that sentiment. I want to point this out before we even get started. There's a common trend. I've tried to address it multiple times, and I would like to address it again here. Just because one team plays well doesn't mean the other team is straight cheeks.
No, okay? Texas is awful. They're awful.
Texas is terrible. Nobody's good. And if Jonesy was running a high college football program, they'd have 85 scholarships. They'd have 4 scholarships. It'd be his kid and Caden Prothro, and it'd be just a bunch of walk-ons from South Georgia, I'm pretty sure. No, but in all seriousness, Texas is still a very good football team. Teams are allowed to have off days. Guys, this isn't the NFL. I mean, the margin of error is just crazy. Maxwell says straight cheeks, not even curvy. No curves here in this one. Shout out Yasso. All right, so, in all seriousness, the health of Mykel Williams made a massive difference. He's fully 100% healthy now. Will, you're seeing that one of the big calling cards, and you've mentioned this, Palmer has mentioned this, we've all talked about this all season, is the interior defensive line for Georgia is not what it was 2-3 years ago. And we may be looking at a case as we get further from those years, there may never be an interior defensive line that plays and has the star talent that it does. But bookending this defensive line is Jalen Walker and Mykel Williams, Will, 2 of the more dynamic pass rushers in the SEC, and you see what they can do against an offense that many considered to be elite. I still think is very, very good. An offensive line that, they hadn't been tested to this point. But, Will, when you look at the way the Georgia defense has played, I don't know if anyone else in the country can play and replicate what they did last Saturday. Those 2 guys in the end, as well as many others, you talked about not a lot of star power, but, man, Mykel Williams showed up and showed that star power.
I'll tell you what, that's I've said it a lot. I know none of those guys listen to anything that I say, but I'm, kind of making a challenge to this Georgia defense. Like, where's the stars? Who's going to step up and be the star? And Saturday night, it was Jalen Walker. Yeah, Mykel Williams had a really good game. The numbers, they aren't going to show it. I mean, well, he had 2 sacks, but he only had 3 tackles. So he was getting after
Walker went crazy.
Jalen Walker went nuts. 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 quarterback hits. I mean, the dude was a one-man wrecking ball.
Yeah.
In Georgia's front 7. When he went down, there was a lot of murmurs. I watched the game at Park Tav. If you know Atlanta, that's the UGA bars with our good friend Austin Bodley.
Yep.
When Jalen Walker went down, there was some murmurs like, "Oh no, we're in trouble if he can't come back." That was true. That dude, I don't know where he's projected draft wise, but he shot up the board big time Saturday night. And got to give a shout out to big number 78 Nazir Stackhouse. That dude, he's a nose tackle and he fills up space, but man, I think he was taking on all three of Texas interior linemen at times. He definitely, his presence was felt, and you could see it watching on TV.
You mentioned not having the star power. I think getting Mykel Williams healthy. Look, Mykel Williams, for a lot of people, and when you looked in the preseason, the guy was maybe a top 20 pick. I mean, just to what he brings in tangibles. Jalen Walker, a little bit more of a tweener at the next stage from what I've been reading about it, is can he put his hand in the ground? Can he stand up? Regardless, Will, this really just might be an example of Jalen Walker's been very good all season. He was very good in that Kentucky game. Maybe he needed help on the other side because offensive line said, hey, we're just going to shift to wherever number 11 is. And because we're not worried about number 13 because he I think the addition of Mykal Williams, to your point, although the stats weren't as crazy as Jalen Walker, still 2 sacks, it helped out this front seven tremendously altogether because it's like a defense that I cover down here. Sometimes when you find that last puzzle piece, man, things just start to click. And so,
or sometimes you lose a puzzle piece. Things click.
Maybe the piece was not even a part of the original box, Will. I mean, that's a legitimate question. So, but in all seriousness, Georgia's defense lights out. Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, going to be good players. And Quinn Ewers is a good player, and Arch Manning's a good player. They couldn't handle it. I don't know if you saw the Twitter clip, but the mug formation that a lot of people are familiar with, obviously, because the EA college football game. Did you see Georgia switch to the mug formation that play? Like, how do you diagnose that?
That was robotic in just how perfect it was. The timing right before the snap, you see that defensive line shift, the linebackers come up to the line, and then within half a second, they're snapping the ball. I don't know how much film you have to watch, how much reps you have to do to get it right like that. But that was, if you like defense, it was beautiful. That's how you execute. That's how you play defense.
Maxwell says the clip of both them sitting on the bench with just baffled looks on their faces explains it all. You're exactly right, Maxwell. And to a point, did you see the comparison of Arch's face to Eli's face in the meme that he had so many years ago? But no, Georgia was.
Do we want to move on to that?
I wanted to ask. What did you say? Well, I want to talk real quick about Georgia's offense here.
Okay.
Look, I thought coming into the season, Carson Beck had a real case to be the top quarterback taken in the draft. And I think that we're seeing, and maybe we talk about this in a later show, quarterback play across the league hasn't been flawless. Quarterback play across the country this year hasn't been flawless. Carson Beck will get into a rhythm, Will, where he looks like the best quarterback in the country, and then some things happen. Wanted to ask you this because ETN is obviously a weapon they have to utilize. He's been the best back that Georgia's had probably in 2 years, and I might get roasted for Georgia fans. I just can't remember the roster exactly. ETN has been the more explosive back. I mean, good Lord, the kid had 3 touchdowns this game, was able to do a lot. Beck was finding a way, and for this season, it's been life post McConkey and Bowers for Carson Beck. They still have weapons. But you had a generational talent at tight end and a pretty dang good receiver. Just your thoughts on this Georgia offense. They did enough to obviously win this game. I still think it can be potent, but man, it's just it hasn't been as electric, I think, as Georgia fans wanted it to be.
Yeah, Carson Beck was not very good for a lot of the game. Look at his numbers: 23 of 41, only 56% completion. He's better than that. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think there was very many drops in there, so he just missed on quite a few. The 3 interceptions, you can almost make an argument that maybe none of those should have been picked off. Maybe the first one, and it was still an incredible play it was a great play. Just reading the quarterback's eyes. I mean, if he gets it over that safety, it's a big gain. The second one hit off, I think it was Lawson Lucky's hands.
Yeah.
A little high, but hit the receiver's hands. And then the last one which we'll get to, just that bizarre call on the pass interference. So, I think that's kind of what this offense is. I mean, they're just not going to be that explosive. They're going to have to wear you down. And of course, a lot of discontent toward Mike Bobo because Georgia was running the ball really well. Yeah, and there was a couple drives that came out. They didn't run it once. It's like, why are you over? That's Mike Bobo. He overthinks. He overthought it against Texas for a lot of the game. Just run the ball. But at wide receiver, it's like we've said the last couple of weeks, nobody else is walking through that door. So Georgia's going to have to make do. They don't have really a single difference maker at wide receiver or at tight end, a pass catcher. So they're just nobody's walking through that door. They're just going to have to figure it out. Somebody's going to have to step up. It's got to be by committee at this point for them. So. But, when you got a quarterback like Carson Beck that can make the plays, that has the arm talent that he has, you're gonna do okay.
Yeah. No, and you're seeing that. I mean, it's talent in that room, just not a clear-cut guy that they're comfortable going with over and over again. And kind of real quick, as we flip over to Texas, Will, let's talk offensively for the Longhorns. 1.1 yards per carry in this game. Look, I don't care what you think about offenses in the SEC, in college football, but especially in the SEC, you have to have a run game. The defense, opposing defense, has to respect some type of run game. Georgia didn't. They didn't respect a run game. They stopped it. They pinned their ears back. I mean, what's the cause? What's the level of concern for Texas fans? Is this just a blip to still a really good Georgia team, or is this a look into maybe some of the deeper rooted issues with this Texas team in 2024 version?
Well, there's a couple of different ways that I think I need to go with this. Number one, this was a classic case of they ain't played nobody, Paul. I mean, Texas has not seen a defense like Georgia.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the fact Georgia's an underdog, which they have never been the last 4 years. They haven't been an underdog.
Yeah.
You let Kirby Smart play the underdog card. You have all the hype. Texas is number one in the country. All the hype from ESPN. Kirby Smart called it out, and he was exactly right. That ESPN was already ready to crown Texas national champions. They were ready to crown them.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a problem of not just this Texas team, but maybe this whole Texas program. And Sark hasn't been able to kind of get it out of the system. And I don't know that you can. Texas might just be too big that you can't get this out of the system that we're Texas. We're the best. You're going to do what we say. They did it in the Big 12 forever. And you know, I worry this could go two ways. Either things are going to get better from here for Texas, their first real test in the SEC, because their conference schedule has not been really anything this year. Oklahoma, don't count them, not just because their offense is bad, because they played them all the time. But this was their first real SEC game, and they got punched in the mouth and they got embarrassed at home. When they brought in Arch Manning in the second quarter, I said, "Oh, this is not good. This is desperation. This is desperation." You talk about Georgia not respecting the run game. It's because they didn't have to worry about a mobile quarterback. I think now the book is out on Kirby Smart and his defense. If you got a mobile quarterback, you got a really good shot. Even bad teams that have mobile quarterback. You look at Mississippi State, what they did to him a couple weeks ago. Van Buren, that kid can run a little bit, as Kirby knows. You think back to was it 2019? That Auburn team offensively wasn't great, but Bo Nix kept Auburn in the game. They couldn't put up points, but that was a 21-7 game, and people were ready to crown Georgia in 2019 when that game played. And you think about all the stars that Georgia had on that defense. And then go back to this time at Alabama, mobile quarterbacks against Alabama. We kind of always remember that, but I still credit most of that to Kirby Smart. So, you know, Arch came in and he showed how fast he was. I didn't realize how fast he was. He's think it was his 21-yard run where he moves. He can move. And, you know, maybe they should have kept Arch in there. They might have been able to do some more things. But, yeah, I think Ewers not being such a threat running really was – it was a bad matchup for Texas. I think we said that last week. This doesn't feel like a very good matchup for Texas.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And like you said, we talked about that, you know, just it not being the most favorable, what you're good at, they're pretty good at type of thing. And, you know, push comes to shove, you kind of have to see what happens. But, you know, with this Texas team, you didn't really have anybody pop off in the receiving game. I mean, you didn't have the separation. Texas has some good, you know, pass catchers. Like, Will, we talked about it. My biggest concern coming into the season for Texas was you replace so much talent in the big games. How would the talent that came in perform? And I mean, look, one of the best defenses in the country shut them down. I guess my saying here is I still think Texas is good. I still think Texas is a playoff team. Still think Texas could win the SEC. It's very hard to beat a team twice in a season. Shout out Washington last year. But, you know, it's very hard to do that. So to that point, I kind of feel like, Will, this is more of just a case of Georgia played so like the underdog factor for Georgia was so hype in this. It gave me shades of, and maybe Georgia fans won't agree with this. It gave me shades of when Tennessee walked in there in 2022 into Sanford Stadium. Now, Tennessee had just gotten the #1 ranking. A lot of people were kind of thinking, oh, here it is. Like, here's where Kirby Smart falls. And even at home, I mean, you had Stetson Bennett with the phone putting down after his number got leaked. Like, just a little bit of the swagger that those earlier Georgia teams had. We saw that come to fruition. And I think Texas was just, for lack of better words, Texas was just in the way of a freight train that was coming through Austin, Texas that night. I mean, I think that it was. I still think Texas is a good football team. But, Will, when you look at the schedule, they make a big road trip up to Nash Vegas for a trip to Vanderbilt this weekend. Which will be fun.
Man,
Florida.
we don't have the graphic ready. Vanderbilt's what 8-3 all time against Texas. They own them. Granted, the last meeting was in 1928, but they owned them historically.
Yeah, as when Cornelius Vanderbilt himself was probably at the helm. No, in all seriousness, they play at Vanderbilt. They host Florida, but then there's a
upstart
tricky
Florida.
upstart
That's
Florida.
upstart Florida.
That is true. They go on the road to Arkansas, which I still think is going to be a tough task. Last time they went there, they lost. A couple years ago. Home against Kentucky at A&M, which is going to be honestly just cue the docket on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. That's going to be a massive game. But in all seriousness, Will, is there cause for concern Texas going forward? Are they going to be able to play the way they played on Saturday and beat most of the teams comfortably, or is this something where now the recipe is here? You have to almost overwhelm them defensively to win the game.
I don't know. I think you certainly, like I said, this could go one of two ways. Either Texas is going to be better from this, or they're not. I mean, Georgia came out throwing haymakers, and Texas had no answer. I mean,
yeah.
Maxwell's comment said it, and we all saw it. I mean, Quinn and Arch both were like, "What is happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
This wasn't supposed to happen."
Much like Georgia got punched in the mouth several times on the road at Alabama.
Yeah, right. But you mentioned their schedule. I don't think maybe until Texas A&M that they're going to face another team that can hit them as hard as Georgia hit them. So,
yeah,
I certainly think they'll do better than 1 yard a rush every game from here on out. They obviously they have to, but I think just because of who's left on the schedule, they're going to have a lot more success, at least until they play Texas A&M.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arkansas could be a tricky stop with them
be.
and that. At Vanderbilt will be fun. David says Vanderbilt's not beating Texas. I'm not taking them to beat Texas. And David, I just think it's going to be fun. Really wish College Game Day would have gone there, by the way. That'd have been really, really cool just for Vanderbilt in that program. Maxwell says they were doing their cute TikTok dances in the locker room ahead of the game. They weren't taking it seriously. Maxwell, noted Sooner fan. By the way, I don't know if you saw the news. Jackson Arnold going to get the start this weekend against Ole Miss. It has been announced, Brent Venables. But he may be coaching for his job. Who knows? Next up on the docket, let's roll. Another one, the third Saturday in October. The Vols silence the Tide and Neyland. I'm going to have more on this and kind of my takeaway of the weekend. So let's talk about Tennessee first here, Will. This game was ugly. This game was sloppy. It wasn't a clean football game. It wasn't the best product in terms of, just pretty football. But sometimes that's not going to happen in this conference. And I think people need to get used to more of games like this because you have just the highest class of athlete going against each other. You got a lot of raw talent out there. And this may be the new SEC where it's just so loaded it's impossible to be clean nearly all the time and look that good. And you have to maybe test that outside of the conference. But in all seriousness here, I mean, Tennessee just finds a way, man. And this Alabama team is deeply flawed. I will talk more about that. I'll let you talk about that when we talk about the Tide. But deeply flawed Alabama team. Tennessee has flaws, but they found a way, and there has to be something to say about that. Winning at home, a pivotal SEC game to keep your playoff and SEC title, hopes alive.
Yeah, well, I was distracted watching this game. I was at a country club type event, and a football game broke out. So I was having to watch this game on my phone. Quite distracted. And looking at the numbers, I don't know how Tennessee didn't win this game by more. Obviously, watching it, I know why. But if you just look at the numbers, you think, how did Tennessee only win by 7? I mean, penalties were a huge story for both teams. 15 for Alabama, which has never happened, has not happened in at least 18 years since they've had 15 penalties in a game. 11 for Tennessee. Again, this is a huge rivalry game. You're going to get penalties like that. But Tennessee, I mean, I've said it a couple times about Tennessee. This is not what you expect from Josh Heupel.
No.
They run the ball. They are a physical, run first, downhill running offense that likes to take deep shots.
Yeah.
Bryce, Tennessee ran for 214 yards on Alabama.
Dylan Sampson
is really, really, I mean, he's a bell cow. 26 carries, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's for Tennessee offensively, he's the story. He's the offense. because Nico just is not connecting. I mean, I said it against Florida. He looked like a freshman against Florida. He's just not clean. He's not crisp yet. 52% completion, 194 yards, touchdown, interception, good enough to win. And that's just what Tennessee needs right now. They just need him to be good enough to win. We saw his backup. I don't know why Heupel even let him throw the ball, because that looked like a middle school quarterback when Gaston Moore came in. Did you see that play? He was like running for his life to his right and just threw it up down the field. I mean, buddy, have you ever played quarterback before? It's kind of what that looked like. But and you're going to get to Alabama, but I mean, this is they're in trouble. They're I mean, obviously they've lost 2 games. They're in trouble. They're fighting for their playoff lives this year, but I have a bad feeling that this is going to get a whole lot worse, and only get worse for them. Obviously, it's uncharacteristic for Alabama, and it's not really fair to Kalen DeBoer to compare it to the last 17 years, because nothing will compare to that. But it's bad. It's bad on all levels. The way they play, both sides of the ball, the antics. Really, the antics is what makes it such a bad look. And Jalen Milroe, I've been saying it for a while.
Yeah, people thought you were just salty, Will. They thought you were just salty after last year.
He's not a good quarterback. He's an incredible athlete, great runner. If he would just play running back and maybe do some wildcat throws, maybe 5 a game, they'd be a lot better on offense. But we'll have to see. Obviously, it's a hostile environment. He's gone up there twice and lost. But Kalen DeBoer, he's got to figure. I mean, he's got to show all the praise that he got when Alabama hired him. Like, he's won everywhere he's been. He's a great coach. He needs to show it now, because it's bad. I think he's coaching for his job too, which is crazy to say after just 2 losses, and they're not out of it yet, but the perception, and we knew Alabama fans were not going to be patient, and they've been loud. They've been loud today.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a little ridiculous at the beginning of like what kind of shirt he was wearing. I mean, that's stupid. Nobody should care about that. That doesn't affect the game. But I'll get to that here in just a second. But no, I agree with you. I'll talk real quick about Tennessee. Look, the Vols, they find a way. Dylan Sampson is a bell cow. He's going to help alleviate a lot of things that I think Nico is just continuing to grow. Well, I'll still stand by my statement. I think Nico is the most God-given, talented quarterback in the country. He's just got to get more polished. And it's really scary to think about him as a junior. I mean, 2 things. Sam Lord, if you're watching, or if you watch after the fact, if Tennessee doesn't play for a national title with Nico at quarterback, it's a failure. It's a complete failure. And if he's not at least a Heisman finalist, it's a failure. That's because I think that kid's that talented. Like, he's a 1-1 type of guy when he comes out, and just in my opinion. So I don't know. That's Tennessee. All right, Will, real quick, I do want to get to this because this is a question you need to answer before we get to our takeaways. Will, who needs to get a job after this week besides Rising, Thorn, and Bowman? We're going to have a whole sponsored segment where Will just rants about get a job. Maybe we can get it sponsored by Indeed or something like that.
Somebody needs to get a job.
Who you got? Who you got it? Who needs to go get a job?
I don't know if anybody was on Get a Job Watch this week. Oh, KJ Jefferson, you're done. And I could not have been more wrong. I said he was going to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony in December. Cold takes exposed right here, which I'm used to those. Yeah, I guess I'll say KJ, get a job, because you lost yours at UCF.
I like it. All right, let's go to our takeaways of the week real quick. This is something where
Why don't
we
you go
talk
first?
takeaways. I'm going to go first because it's really kind of right here in the same vein. So pull up mine. And we're talking Tennessee, Alabama, and I want to pose this because my takeaway, and I wrote a column today over at Go 24/7 about LSU's trajectory for the season and what it would mean. And I kind of included Alabama's decline in this because, for lack of better words, I mean, you have 2 old SEC West teams, the 2 unbeaten teams playing this week, and one of them still has to play Alabama, obviously, in LSU. And as I was kind of looking at that game, like I thoroughly believe that Alabama's decline is starting earlier than we all expected. And what I mean by decline is, I mean that in the months of January and February, Will, we all talked about how, Kalen DeBoer is going to be able to win this year with Nick Saban, the bulk of Nick Saban's players, and next year. But in 2027, 2026, 2027, I think that's really where you learn about who Kalen DeBoer is as a program builder at one of the most elite programs in the country, a program that the standard is so high that he'll never be able to reach it. And for a lot of people, it was way too high. And I said, you know what? You can't compare them. Like you kind of started off when we talked about Tennessee, Alabama. But I do think we're approaching like this decline is coming at a more rapid pace than maybe you, definitely myself, and other people saw. When DeBoer was hired, Will, I think you kind of talked about on the show, a little bit frustrated as an Auburn fan because you're like the guy's a winner. But one thing we're seeing is the things that made Alabama so hard to beat. It wasn't the 5 stars because teams had 5 stars and they could go play them. It wasn't the game plan, the scheme, because teams had great game planners and great, he had a tree that had some of the best coaches we've seen in the past 15, 20 years. It was the small details that made Nick Saban-led teams so impossible to overcome and beat. It's why everyone rushed the field against them because you felt like it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to beat a guy that rarely made a mistake. And going back to the Vanderbilt game, seeing it some in the South Carolina game, and then obviously see it rear its head here, it's beyond just the penalty numbers. It's the discipline in your assignments. It's the discipline in where you're playing and doing your job. It's just the overall discipline of a team that you expect to see out of, and I'll call out the team I cover, you expect to see out of an LSU. Like you expect to see out of, Texas A&M, out of a Georgia where they're maybe not as dedicated, or disciplined to that certain point, but never would you have seen that. And I think that's the fine line. I think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. I hope that his coaching reputation isn't completely tarnished by what happens in Tuscaloosa because, like we said, those mile markers are so ridiculous for him to ever hit. But I think we are seeing a decline a little bit sooner because, well, the past 3 weeks have Alabama fans pulling their hair out. Like, what are we watching? Because it's not even, hey, you had to go beat us. Well, they're handing teams opportunities to come and beat them. They're lucky they don't have 3 losses on the season already. So I think the decline's happening sooner. I think we're seeing a lack of discipline and focus. And I'll just call the kid out, and I know he bitched a public apology, but you're an employee at this point, so I'll call you out. It's like the NFL. Malachi Moore is the biggest example. And I know everyone wants to harp on that, but this is a guy who literally spent multiple seasons in a Nick Saban locker room and was revered as one of the leaders of a Nick Saban team. And then he comes out and acts like this. Like the accountability factor, I'm not trying to dog on Kalen DeBoer and this staff. It's just different. And I think you're seeing there's the difference. It's like, okay, when would we start seeing the cracks? Well, there's the cracks. That's what's different. And I don't think the program is going to go to complete waste or anything like that. I just think you're seeing it fall maybe a lot sooner and a lot quicker and a more rapid pace than any of us could have suggested. Because I don't know about you, I don't think anyone thought that back-to-back games against Vanderbilt and South Carolina would expose the cracks in a Kalen DeBoer-led team.
Yeah, it's strange to watch. Although it's weird. I mean, I can't stand Alabama, but at the same time, I'm more in shock than I am, relishing in it. I mean, I relish in it during the games. I'm like, man, this is great. They're not good anymore. It's great. I love this. But like now that it's Monday, I'm like, it's just weird because we haven't seen it in so long when Alabama was just dysfunctional. Because it's been a long time.
You've seen them have open spots in their armor at times. You know what I mean? Like you've seen them, but you've never seen. And Will, I mean, look, you're a fan of Auburn. You saw some of those matchups when they would come into Jordan-Hare, and they didn't look like the Greek god that everyone always put them as. I mean, that for me, and Gavin puts up a great point here. Pulling up to the game with a cigar, which not a player, a coach. Pulled up to the game, walked in with a cigar in his mouth. Wouldn't happen, not just Saban in his opinion. Gavin, I agree with you. I mean, it's just there's some loose ends. And the job of Kalen DeBoer and his job in Tuscaloosa and how, with the longevity of his time there, will depend on how quickly and how fast he can tie up those loose ends. I'm not talking about firing or hiring. I'm just talking about understanding that just because all these new faces walked in and wear that color and wear that helmet, it doesn't mean it's the same thing. And you still have to go out each and every single day and live up to that standard. So that's my takeaway of the week.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that this was part of the problem, because I think I said it a couple of times. He's never coached in the South. He's never been in the Southeast anywhere near it. So he's also learning on the job, like what it means. Like he's learning quickly.
Yeah.
Like you can't let these kind of things fly if you want to be successful and win a national championship down here, because everybody is holds themselves to such a high standard. You got to hold yourself to a higher standard. So it's the little things. So the little things don't cost you, right? And can say the same things about Auburn. It seems like the little things is costing Auburn right now. It's just the difference. It's small margins in the SEC, and DeBoer's having to learn those.
No, I agree with you. So that's my takeaway of the week. Well, let's walk over to yours, which is the team that you've been pounding the fist for, and I'm going to give you the runway. So you're your pilot, sir. Take as long as you want to lift this plane off.
Army's a wagon, and they will be in the college football playoff. The Army-Navy game is staring down the barrel. I don't know what the American Conference is going to do, because I think it's going to be the American Conference Championship game, which is supposed to be played the week before the Army-Navy game. But if it's Army and Navy, I don't think they're going to play it. They're just going to wait and say, well, this is our conference championship game, which is incredible. Army's first year in the American, first that I've ever known them to be in a conference for football. I don't know if they've always been independent before now, but Army's good. Army's good. Yeah. And the numbers back it up. Total defense, Army's 11th in the country. We played 7 games at this point. You can talk about, and I said it earlier, they hadn't played nobody, but again, you've got 7 games of stats to back this up. They're 11th in the country in total defense. They're giving up less than 5 yards of play, which, I will admit, if they were in a better conference, they would not be undefeated, giving up 4.8 yards per play. But I mean, they're good. They defensively, they give up 200. They give up less than 300 a game, 281. Offensively, total offense, where are they? They're 20th. Part of that has to do with the offense, but Bryce, they average 7.39 yards per play. They've scored 39 touchdowns.
It's insane.
They're not running the spread, folks. They're still running the option. They're doing a little bit different things. They go a little bit of shotgun. They go a little bit of pistol, but they are still running the old school option offense. They're gaining 459 yards per game, and they're doing almost all of it on the ground. Because I'll get to their quarterback in a second. You'll see that they're doing it all on the ground. Turnover margin, 11th in the country. I mean, they're a top 15 team, total offense, defense, and turnover margin. They don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
They've turned it over once this year, and it was a fumble. So their quarterback, Bryson Daly, has not thrown an interception. Plus 8 in turnover margin. That's 11th in the country. I mean, I don't know how you can say that they're not good. Bryson Daly, if this guy is not top 5 in Heisman voting, he may not be at the ceremony as a finalist, but he should be top 5 in Heisman voting. Rushing, which is what you expect from an option quarterback. He's already racked up 909 yards. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry and 19 touchdowns on the ground already from the quarterback position.
Insanely efficient.
Yeah, and passing, he's been good too. I mean, it's not NFL caliber lighting it up. He's only averaging 57% of his passes.
Yeah.
But he's thrown for 600 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. His quarterback rating is 219. Efficiency is the name of the game for Army. It's the name of the game for the service academies. Navy's doing the same thing too. But I'm on Army because I love Bryson Daly. If you haven't watched Army, watch one drive and you'll see what I'm talking about offensively. Bryson Daly is the focal point. He runs people over. He runs the option beautifully. They're fun to watch. And like I said, they're doing it a little bit differently now, a little bit of shotgun, a little bit of pistol, but it might be better on your eyes if you don't like the option and you don't like ugly football like I do. They're fun to watch. Just watch one drive and you'll see Bryson Daly what I'm talking about. And I've watched almost every game and they don't punt a lot either.
Yeah. No, you're right. They don't. They're efficient. TriStar says as FDR president right now, Army and Navy are dominating people.
Yes.
Fun fact for you, it's been since 1938 or 28, one of the two, 38 I think, since Indiana and Vanderbilt have both been in the AP top 25. And that final three in the AP poll is just beautiful. It's like whatever
Army,
the
Navy,
combination
Vandy.
is, Army, Navy, Vandy. I love it. Real quick, we're going to go to our team of the week. It's brought to you, though, by Dr. Squatch. Make sure you use code Bryce for 10% off your actually, it's $10 off your order of $20 or more. And like, that's such a good deal. Like, I don't think people realize how good of a deal that is. Will, are you still on your Dr. Squatch stuff? Are you still using it?
No, I gotta re-up on Dr. Squatch.
Gotta re-up. It's a good time.
Gotta
We'll be right
re-up.
back. Dr. Squatch team of the week for each of us coming up right after this.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
All right, Dr. Squatch. Make sure it's your team of the week presented by Dr. Squatch. He says, try to use. Will, do you know what he's talking about?
TriStar or Maxwell?
Maxwell. Are you aware?
I'm aware.
Sydney Sweeney, the new spokesperson. I don't even know. I think we'd have to hide the children if we put that commercial on the program. That's why we're using the old one. He says Will uses White Rain. Dear God. All right, here we go. Well, you can type yours in. I've got mine, and so I went ahead and put mine in. Bryce's team of the week, the Navy midshipmen. Shout out my guy, former Mercer football head coach Drew Cronick. A revelation happening in Annapolis as Navy and Army are barreling towards what is just going to be so much fun, folks. I mean, that's going to be crazy, but not before the midshipmen take on Notre Dame very, very soon. Going to be a massive opportunity for both teams. Notre Dame's got to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Navy has to keep this one to keep their playoff hopes alive. I love what Navy's doing. As much as you said, Will, about Bryson Daly, Blake Horvath has been almost equally as efficient.
Yes.
The win against Charlotte, where they put up 51 points, he threw 7 passes, completed 7 passes out of 13, 117 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also then ran for another 56. Will, they had, this is crazy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guys get at least 1 carry, and they still threw the ball, it's just this Drew Cronick offense. I spent a lot of time at Mercer, got a chance to watch it week in and week out for 2 straight seasons. It can be deadly. It's not the straight triple option like Will was talking about, even that Army's doing. I mean, it's the best way to describe it is watch Jamie Chadwell and what he does at Liberty. It's all kind of the concept based off of that. And man, it's electric. And it's kind of taking the G5 level by storm, in my opinion, of, hey, if we can't get the elite athletes, let's run something to where we can still utilize our personnel, but we can also recruit too. And it's in my opinion, it's huge. Navy midshipmen. That's my team of the week. Gavin says this should be college game day. Will, correct me wrong. Navy Notre Dame's this week, right?
It is.
It is. Well, that is on the docket for Wednesday night. You better get ready. So I don't know. That's what I like about it. How much did Navy put up against Memphis? Let's see.
56.
56-44. Will they have
over by themselves?
That's right. Oh God. Well, they haven't scored under 35 points or 34 points this whole season.
Yeah.
And the only reason that's because they played Air Force, so the game went by quick.
Yeah, and they ran one of the most beautiful fake option reverses I've ever seen.
I love it. Navy. That's Bryce's Dr. Squatch team of the week. Will, who you got? Who's on? Who's your team of the week?
The Florida Gators. Just absolutely pummeled Kentucky in the swamp. I mean, this is like old school Kentucky, Florida, because the last 5-6 years Kentucky's made headway. What, they hadn't won in the swamp since like the 80s until a few seasons ago. This was like normal behavior. Florida playing Kentucky, 48-20. I'm going to put it out there and say it now. I think Billy Napier has saved his job. I think he's done it. And there's still 5 games to play. They're still not bowl eligible. We know how hard the back end of the schedule is, but I think he saved his job. He got some help. Unfortunately, Graham Mertz going down with injury and him being forced to play DJ Lagway, start him every game. I think it helps, gets him some sympathy for sure. But like I said earlier, this is an upstart Florida Gators right now. I mean, they're rolling. I mean, they very well probably should have beat Tennessee last week. They come in, they pummel Kentucky. They've looked better. They beat UCF, my Big 12 champs, which that's looking worse and worse by the week.
Not as bad as Ralph's ACC champs, the NC State Wolfpack, but yes.
They also won their first conference game.
Shout out.
But Florida, you hang 48 when everybody's been telling you your offense is terrible. Everybody's saying you need to find an offensive coordinator. Billy Napier said, "Watch this. We'll go out and score 24 in the second quarter, and then we'll outscore you 21-7 in the second half and run you out of the building." You got to watch out for Florida. Watch out for them. We've said it all year. They've still got talent on this team. It's a talented roster. If they can figure some things out, put it together, they can win some games. They can certainly play spoiler the rest of the way. They've got Texas. They've got Georgia. Not saying they're going to beat either of those, but I mean they could really shake things up nationally, pulling off some upsets. They got Florida State and Charleston Southern, so I think they'll be bowl eligible at this point.
Josie says will be a tough match. Yeah, oh yeah. I think
for 4 quarters, we'll see.
Physically, they're going to bring it.
Yeah, physically they'll bring it. But I'm going Florida. Big winners.
Wanted to point out a stat from that game, Will. Talk about balance. 476 yards of offense. They averaged 8.1 yards per play, 279 through the air, and nearly 200 on the ground. We can talk about Florida. Mark Stoops is on the hot seat. Well, if Mark Stoops loses to Auburn this week at home, he's gone. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and put that right there. And for Mark Stoops, your calling card is defense, and you let a subpar SEC team do that to you. DJ Lagway is electric. You're going to have to live and die with his freshman mistakes. That's what it is. I like Florida, though, man. I told LSU fans this past weekend, get ready for that trip to the Swamp. That's a fierce rivalry. And if LSU wins and, is positioned to be maybe one of the, a trip to Atlanta, that game is definitely, like you said, playing spoiler. And Gavin says put a name on it. Online classes, make sure you show up to attendance. That's all I got to say. So Will's team of the week, Florida Gators. That's a good one, Will. That's a good one. That's good. Kiffin will throw the game against them thinking he's going to get the job. Ole Miss plays Florida too. Good God.
Kiffin wouldn't do that for Auburn. So
what channel is Florida State going to be on, Will? Can the Crowded Booth just live stream that?
I think it'll be a forced it'll be at noon on Nickelodeon. The Iron Bowl being the same time slot on Comedy Central because it's just laughable how bad the two teams are. The states of Alabama and Florida are down bad right now. They're down bad.
Miami's carrying the torch, by the way. That Miami's on the thumbnail.
Yes,
We didn't even
Miami.
talk about them, by the way. Let's talk about them real quick. My team of the week was Auburn for pissing down their leg again. TriStar, you don't need to remind Will. He is well aware of what's happening over there. Let's talk about that just for a second. Miami, before we get to our best bets recap, goes on the road to wins. And I don't – look, Louisville has a good offense. Cam Ward is – he's the difference maker. And I came into the season saying I thought that he would be. Like, I didn't think he was going to be a flameout. And he's been effective for them. This Miami team, man, Will, could the prophecy ring true? I said they might roll into Atlanta undefeated, and they're nearly there.
They could. They've gotten some help. They tried to give this game away a couple times in the fourth quarter. I don't know. Say what you want to about the ACC officiating. It certainly has been questionable, but I mean, good teams stay in games and find a way to win them.
Yeah.
Good teams, it seems like they get breaks. Maybe they do on purpose. But Cam Ward's awesome. I think I don't know, man. I'm kind of glad I don't have a Heisman vote this year because I think there's 3 players very deserving: Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, and Cam Ward. And to be honest with you, I think Cam Ward should get it. He's kind of seemingly having to do all this by himself. I mean, he was awesome against Louisville. 319 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, that's on the road. Played really well, but really all I know about Cam Ward is he wasn't good enough to play at Auburn. That's really what I know.
It always comes back to Auburn. I love it. It always comes back.
There's so many connections. He wasn't good enough. And now our coach that's been a head coach at the FBS level for 13 years said today he doesn't know what to do in the hard times.
Oh,
God. What are we talking about?
You want to hear? Quick change of the subject because I don't want to get you down that rabbit hole. Per Bet Online, make sure you use code BELIEVE50 to match that deposit. Ashton Jeanty at plus 210, Cam Ward at plus 240, Dylan Gabriel at plus 375. Dylan Gabriel's had a really good year, by the way. Carson Beck is the next one. There's a massive jump at plus 2,000, Klubnik at plus 2,000, Hunter at plus 2,000. Milrow at plus 25, and then Nussmeier is tied with him there at 2,500. Then you see kind of another big gap as well. Curtis Rourke, by the way, Indiana lost him for the season. That sucks. That really sucks, by the way.
Well, how is Travis Hunter down to plus 2,000? Like, is he injured that bad?
He was hurt. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I thought he came out of that game because they were blowing out Arizona.
I don't know. Ashton Jeanty plus 210. If you want, I mean, that might be something to put some money on just to see what happens. Plus 2,000. Yeah. You can do that. Use code BELIEVE50. Match that deposit. Get you $100 in there on Travis Hunter plus 2,000. All right, let's real quick before we round it out. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as always. Well, it's that time of the night. We got to do it. Just brutal beat for me. I watched UCLA live. They're one of the worst Power 4 teams I've ever seen in my life. And Rutgers, they don't even deserve to be called what Ralph calls them. Rutgers favored by 4.5 at home. Will, I want you to walk me through this. All season long, we have sat here and talked about, and the numbers showcase this. When teams travel cross country, they are not having success. Not like an ounce, maybe.
I mean, we've seen it in the NFL over the last 20 years too. I mean, that is. Like if you want to make money betting football, do it on the NFL. A West Coast team going to the East Coast, they don't do well, and we're seeing it this year too in college.
I could have lived with a cover. I could have lived with Rutgers winning, but UCLA covering. The fact that UCLA won this football game blows my mind. I thought this was easy money, and I will tell you this too. I know for a fact that I believe for a fact, and Ralph took this as a part of your weekend bets, and we're all losers. I'm just the one. I'm now 4-5 on the year. That's a brutal beat for me. Let's go over to Ralph here. Ralph, Iowa -6 at Michigan State. I don't know. That's interesting. Another
Ralph
one.
Ralph was trying to talk me into this, and I told him I was like, honestly, I don't have any faith in Iowa. I don't. They're not what they used to be. They're trying to be fancy and run a spread offense. I don't trust them yet.
Ticks me off. Will, let's go to you here, pal.
It don't matter. It don't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I do. And Dr. Bob, look, my only win is Army, and Dr. Bob has told me that I should just go with Army or Navy. Problem is I like them too much. I don't want to put my curse on them, so I got to stay away.
You're not going to take Navy plus the points this weekend against Notre Dame?
I don't think so.
You probably shouldn't, because I want Navy to win that game.
Let me see. Hold on. I might give you my best bet right now. Let's see. Hold on. Let me pull it up. It's a game in the SEC. You probably know where I'm going.
Is it LSU A&M?
It is not. Although
Auburn, Kentucky
over. Yeah, Auburn, Kentucky. What's this number? I'm scrolling. I really don't even need to see the number. I think I'm just blindly taking Kentucky.
Just take Kentucky money line as your best bet.
Kentucky -2.5. I know Dr. Bob's not watching, but you can go ahead and put it on the spreadsheet for him.
Final score:
Look,
Kentucky 19, Auburn 17.
It should be a win-win because either Kentucky beats Auburn and covers and I win, or Auburn wins the game.
Wild. Gavin asked, is South Carolina up? Yeah, dude. They beat Oklahoma into submission, and you're seeing how young that team is and how they're a pretty dang good football team. And they've come close, and I like South Carolina. We're big fans of Shane Beamer here on the podcast. He joined, and we'll hopefully get him back on next season. But loved what he's done. I mean, Lenora Sellers is going to be a dude. He's just got to grow up. Rocket Sanders has been nice for them. They're finding their pieces, and that's an NFL front seven they have. Maxwell says, watching Kennard makes me sad. Yeah, the dude's literally top 5 in sacks, and he transferred out of Georgia Tech. It's crazy. And they've got one of the best freshmen in the country, by the way. Gavin says right here, hey, look, just goes to show you. It's all about the money. All about the money.
Not money down, just money. Not money down, just money. Spend
Gavin
too much
says,
money on those
Auburn,
printing those fake dollar bills.
Of everyone on Auburn, open shot, the fate of the universe on the line. The Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth. You better hit it. I want bait and thorn. God, we're gonna have to record a whole podcast about it. Will's gonna be on suicide watch if we don't. It's gonna be brutal.
No, it's I said in the Discord. You can't hurt my feelings. You can't hurt my feelings about Auburn.
Yeah, you can't. It is what it is. College football week number 8 was absolutely fantastic. We'll be back tomorrow night. Took a break off last week, but we're back opening the phone lines. I know Tech fans are going to be raring to go. Notre Dame fans may be raring to go. We got 3 minutes and about 10 seconds here. Will you just use it for this, Will? I fired off a couple bullets late Sunday afternoon, maybe early Sunday afternoon. I don't know what it was. Fired a couple bullets from the chamber on social media, and just want to say this: like, don't be a jerk. Just don't be that. Like, just don't be that guy. You're not that funny. Don't be that guy. There's no reason to be that. And it's highly unfortunate if you feel like you have to belittle other people to make yourself feel good about yourself. We talk about that all the time. Don't be that person. And for sure,
just live by the golden rule, man.
Just live by the golden rule, man. It's not that serious. No one, none of us are Stephen A. Smith here. So just calm down a little bit. Gavin says Lank. We're linking that. We're gonna let them know. So, it's just wild. It's just interesting. It's a weird world out there. And I'll promise you this: if you ever bring me back inside the city limits, go ahead and get ready, pal. Buckle up. I'm gonna put you in the seatbelt. That's what I got for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth. Don't be that guy. It's not funny. You're not that guy.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.